I just noticed you could see my little cat's tail and little bottom over there. Excuse that. But anyway, cheers. Hope you have a nice cup of tea because today we are going to be delving into the Jane Austen diet. And forgive the lighting, I know it's rather, not ideal, but I thought this view was so beautiful and that you might like to enjoy today's beautiful summer view. The Jane Austen diet was written by Jane Austen and Brian Kozlowski. Austen's Secrets to Food, Health, and Incandescent Happiness. So this book it's just so engaging, and there's just so much information to pull from it. Since reading this book, I have been purposely going on many more walks. It's inspired me in that regard. And it's inspired me to up my tea consumption, which I was already kind of a heavy tea drinker. But anyway, this book will inspire you, I promise. Let's start at breakfast for a Regency character and analyze some of the behavior and activities in Jane Austen's world. First of all, they get up. In Jane Austen's world, the upper classes at least, we are only talking about the middle and upper classes. Let's be clear, let's be real, right? They get up, and what's the first thing they do? Do they go grab a donut? No, the first thing that they might do is go for a morning walk. They would dress, wash, and get out the door, get some fresh air, get some sunshine, which has vitamin D, all the oxygen from the fresh air helps your body wake up. And then after walking a good bit, then they come back, and then, only then, do they have their breakfast. What do they do at breakfast? Well, at breakfast, are they sitting again, scarfing down a donut as they drive in their car to work? No, heck no, they're not. What are they doing? They're sitting down to likely a pretty formal-esque in our mind meal for breakfast with their family or friends or whomever it might be. Did they eat bread? Yes, they ate bread in Austen's period of time. And the whole thing is they did eat bread, but it was very, very thinly sliced. It's not a make a piece of Texas toast. It's a thin slice of bread eaten very primly, one little morsel at a time. It's enjoyed. But they do eat bread, sometimes at multiple meals per day. Another aspect of dining in Jane Austen's world is the kitchen. In today's homes, it's often popular to have the kitchen be the heart of the home. In Austen's world, not the case. The kitchen is removed from the rest of the home. So it's not exactly easy just to waltz by your kitchen, grab something, and continue on with your day. You have to make a point of walking to the kitchen. Sometimes the kitchens would even be outside, and really think about your activity in going to the kitchen and getting food. Another aspect of eating in Austen's world is that people sat down, they focused on eating, and they focused in that time period on thinking happy or positive thoughts while they were eating. Science has actually shown, and this is crazy, this blew my mind. Science has actually shown that if you are in a positive frame of mind, if you are happy while you are eating, like let's say you're eating whatever with iron in it, if you are happy and focusing on the nutrients that your body can get from the food that you are consuming, your body will actually consume a higher percentage of nutrients, or iron in this example, than if you were not focused on the health benefits of the food you are eating, and if you were in an unpleasant or sad mood. That's crazy, right? The human body is just so mysterious. Lunch, what I call lunch, some people where I live, they still call dinner. It's kind of a country thing or a rural thing, I think. And then in more metropolitan areas these days, at least where I live in the United States, people commonly call the midday meal lunch, and then they'll call the later meal in the evening dinner. That's the way I grew up, but I have since learned that many people call lunch dinner and dinner supper. That's apparently what they called those meals in Austen's world. And what was dinner in Austen's world? Dinner in Austen's world was a large meal. It was likely the largest meal of the day, the heaviest meal of the day. So they ate their large meal, and then they had the rest of the day to then burn the calories from their meal. And it wasn't just sitting in their stomach, putrefying as they went to bed, as is the case for me sometimes because I eat so darn late. But lunch, and then they would go on and have, tea, likely, and then they would have their supper, and supper consisted likely of a very small meal compared to our modern dinners. It would be maybe soup sometimes, or a porridge in cases, just something light. Today, Western people consume such a shocking amount of sugar. It's just heaps and heaps of sugar a day, far more than the human body knows what to do with or is good for you. In Austen land, did they eat sugar? Yes, but they kept their sugar literally under lock and key, as in they had a sugar cabinet and they locked it up, and you had to have the key to get access to that sugar. Sugar was expensive in their day, and it wasn't something that was thrown around like it is today. There's no sugar bowl on the table just waiting for anyone to dump some on their cereal or in their coffee, etc., etc. There weren't prepackaged foods with gobs and gobs of sugar. Sugar was there, but it was very precious and under lock and key, as I said. I mentioned tea a bit earlier, and so when you think of Austen's books and movies, certainly you think of tea, right? Do you think of coffee? No, not really. I don't either. There isn't much coffee drinking in Austen land. It's tea drinking. Is tea drinking good for you? Yes, apparently. It is, according to certain lines of thought. Tea, unlike coffee, can have those stimulating effects, but it also has something called L-theanine, and that has a more calming effect on the body. So you don't get the jitters with tea like you do with coffee. There's nothing to combat the caffeine in coffee. It's just, woo, you go, right? And it pumps up your adrenal glands. Yeah, not the case with tea. So tea has pleasant effects on the body. Tea was even thought to be kind of medicinal or a little magical, I guess you could say, in Austen's world. What sort of tea did they like to drink? Well, Austen's books do take place in England, but they're not pouring mass amounts of cream and dumping sugar in their tea. It actually suggests that people consume green tea. Yeah, they drank green tea back then in Austen land. And don't put cream again in your tea, because cream will bind to the antioxidants and make the tea not as healthful for you. They drank alcohol in Austen land. Yes, they did. They did drink alcohol. Did women drink alcohol in Austen land? Yes, they did. Did they drink massive amounts of alcohol in huge wine glasses? No, they did not. Apparently, the average wine glass in Austen land was only about 2 ounces. Much, much smaller than our common day wine glasses. Insanely smaller, right? So a woman in some Austen books might consume a glass of wine and then have even another. But the total of that would be less than 4 ounces, and that would be it. Women didn't really typically drink more than 2 glasses of wine or that 4 ounces. Did men drink more? Yeah, they did. Right, and things are just in Austen land divided by the sexes like that, so I'm just speaking of historical fact. So, what other drinks did they consume in Austen land? In Jane Austen's world, they also consumed spruce beer. And this is made from spruce trees. I think it was carbonated also. And I'm not sure, I can't quite recall. I don't even believe it had to be alcoholic. It was more like a root beer, like it just had the flavor of spruce and not necessarily the alcohol. But it was said to be refreshing, and I think it just sounds so nice to drink on a summer day. Don't you? I wish we had some. We've mentioned that in Austen land, many of the characters enjoyed taking long walks in nature. Did they do anything else for exercise aside from walking? There was a lot of horseback riding, and there was a good deal of dancing in certain areas of society, which is also exercise. So that sort of exercise was engaged in Jane Austen's books. And then something else that this book does talk about is the food consumed. We mentioned sugar and bread. Let's talk a bit more about food, because it's pretty fascinating what they ate in Austen's time period. A lot of the upper crust homes had their own kitchen gardens, or if you were really wealthy, like Darcy, right? You have just massive orchards and vegetable gardens, just almost like heaven, right? So much fruit, so many vegetables to enjoy. So they did consume fruits and they did consume vegetables. Oftentimes, though, the vegetables that they did eat were cooked, and they liked to put a bit of butter on their vegetables. They weren't cooked to a mush, but they were cooked apparently, and the butter is known to, in modern science, help the body assimilate nutrients and vitamins from the vegetables, which is cool to learn about. Something else that they did is they would eat small amounts of just fresh green salads, just not a ton, but they would eat small amounts of that. Would they eat meat in Austen land? Of course, right? They love to eat meat, right? That probably, I would say, would be a staple, wouldn't you? Porridge, I did mention earlier. They might come home and have, a small snack of porridge, but overall, porridge and grains were thought to be for animals, animal feed for horses, and it was something that the upper crust in Austen land thought that was more for farmers, people who worked physically with their body, because they were afraid that the grains would just plump them up too quickly. People, women in particular, because women always, were in that place of feeling like they wanted to look beautiful or watch their figure. Women would, in Austen land, consume things like porridge to gain weight if they felt that they were getting a bit thin, because thin was not desirable. Having a healthy physique was not too thin, not too overweight. What a delightful mentality, right? So I think that's all I have to say on the book. I hope you found this information to be intriguing and that you now would like to find this book or listen to it on Audible. It's one of those books that once you start reading or listening to, you literally can't put down. You're just so spellbound, I promise. Just pick it up, and I bet you'll be inspired to start some new healthy activities for the summer. Jane Austen's Diet. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have a remarkable end of June. Bye.